All right, we're on here. Happy May the 4th, everybody. Feel free to make your own internal Star Wars jokes. We don't have any updates from the Project Management Committee this week. Last week, we mentioned that we are working with the Software Freedom Conservancy. We're still doing that. We just haven't made any significant progress. We will post updates on that as it happens. Working on backdropcms.org. Wes is hankering out how to get our new homepage designs reorganized and put together, I think, in a new theme. So he's not here to give us an update on that, but I did see that he tweeted that he was working on it recently, so that's good. Olaf, would you like to give us an update on translation stuff?
You hear me? Wait a minute.
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay. Not really, actually, because I didn't make it to work at the translation stuff. Yeah, because of other important things, and there was one bug with the extraction module, which not considered JavaScript files with translation strings in it, or language strings in it, and Geoff wanted to have a look at it, but I think he didn't have a chance because of the upcoming 1.7 release, so we didn't work on it. Did you get that?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I thought, Nate, you had an idea about handling that translation. You had some crazy idea last week about something. I don't remember what it was. It might not be related to this issue.
Yeah, not translation in JavaScript files. I don't recall having come up with anything on that recently.
Okay. Probably wasn't related. All right, well, let's switch over to talking about Backdrop CMS with its upcoming release and all the amazing stuff that's happened in the last week. So Nate, do you want to take it away?
Sure. So yeah, it's been one heck of a week. As you know, May 1st was the code freeze for the 1.7 release, and so we hustled and bustled and tried to get everything done that we could. 1.7 an awesome release, and I think that we've got some really kick-ass stuff done. But before we get to that, we'll talk about 1.6 branch. The last version that will come out will be version 1.6.4. I think that will come out May 15th, the same time as 1.7 does. And we've solved lots of bugs, like dozens of bugs in the 1.6 X branch that will be included in that version. The only ones that are of note, a transliteration issue that when you use Path Auto, the transliteration doesn't actually match the language of the content. And it turns out this is slightly deeper than just a bug. It's actually like a behavioral thing, like what language content should be saved as if you don't have the content translation module turned on, but you still have a non-English language website. And so we're talking about basically how to deal with this situation of single language websites that are not English and how content should be saved and treated in that issue. So that a bit larger than just being a transliteration issue, but it's developing into some interesting conversation there.
Silly question, but why isn't it just saved as undefined if someone doesn't specify?
That is the problem, actually, is that it does save as undefined. But if you're writing content in German, transliteration, the pronunciation of transliterated letters is different in German than it is in English. And if it's an undefined piece of undefined language, then that means it transliterates as though it were an English pronunciation or an English transliteration rather than a German one. So the full explanation of the problem is in the issue. And then, yeah, it's actually funny that that exact behavior is exactly what it's doing right now. But that actually causes a problem. Anyway, so lots of things happening, or lots of discussion happening in that issue to try to figure out how to deal with that situation. Let's see, an autocomplete style bug, issue 2517. That one was fixed this past week, or actually more accurately backported in 1.6 this past week. So we now have autocomplete styled and prettied up in the 1.6 release as well, or we will in 1.64. And there's a bucket of other issues that are tagged for the 1.64 release. Basically, these being other bugs that are of substantial note that in the very near future. Okay, items for 1.70. This has gotten a little interesting because now that we're after feature freeze, we can't actually implement new functionality. It's really about bug fixing things. We're still letting in UX improvements. So if they have, if you have minor changes that are going to be non-breaking, we're still letting in changes that fix bugs and improve the UX. But we don't have any actual items singled out as being an area of focus at this point. On May 1st, we released a preview release for the first time ever, which is very exciting. You can go check it out on GitHub. It's tagged 1.7.0 preview. It's also on backdropcms.org, but it's the main download release. It's the first time we had a preview release like this. I double checked to make sure update status wasn't going to start, telling software. Fortunately, it doesn't, so that's great. Let's see. So let's talk about the features. Oh, do you have something to add, Clonos?
Yeah, sorry. Maybe if we make this a habit, which is a good thing and we should, making preview releases, then we should update the documentation that has the tasks that we do. Like we should add a task for the preview release as well. See how we have the tasks that people get to do things?
You mean like a milestone in GitHub?
Yeah, we open an issue and it's like, I don't know, besides just tagging the release, is there anything else to do?
I understand. So like a release issue that we make a checklist of what we need to do in order to make the release. Yeah, that's a great idea. Because I just cut the release tag, but then I still didn't make release notes, for example. And I don't think that we about it or did anything else, and that probably would have happened had we followed the checklist. So agreed, that's a great idea, and we'll do that in the future.
And then also a question, I didn't check, but does that come up as like if people check the available updates page, does it come up as a regular release, like an update?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't show up at all, I don't believe. Okay, let's see. So let's talk about what we got done in the last week. So every week we've been pulling up this list of like features that have focus, and other than the ones that we took off a couple of ones in the past few weeks, including things like relationships and layouts, but the one on our list, all of them have been completed. That includes redesign the status report and the available updates page. That issue has been merged. Clean up CSS for the views UI, issue 930. That one looks really pretty amazing. The Views UI looks so much better now. So a bunch of CSS updates to make our site, or to make the admin theme look much more consistent. Page element blocks is issue 1704. This functionality makes it so that we can move around the messages, tabs, page title, and action links within layouts. And that is all complete and very, very cool. Copy paste upload. This one was marked RTBC last week and has now been merged in. Port views pane displays is issue 2433. And that allows us to place blocks from views and then override the settings of views on a per block instance. So you could place the same view twice, for example, and then make one display 5 items and the other one display 10, or override any of the options that we expose to you on a per block basis. That one's really cool. It also unblocks, Gregory pointed out, it also unblocks the ability for us to convert the recent comment blocks, or sorry, the recent comments to a view, because that block previously had like, how many comments do you want to display? And now that we can expose the pager count via views to the block, that makes it so that we can have a feature equivalent functionality between the Drupal 7 approach and the backdrop approach. I doubt that'll be.
I might be able to find time to fix that, like to get that view, that issue, maybe this Sunday. But we're not getting it into 1.7.0 anyways, right? That's feature, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those ones that like we were talking about before we started this meeting. It's like ended task, and it's also kind of likely to break things. Borderline feature. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It still would be great to take a look at and prepare, because there's always 1.8. There are some other issues that are slated for 1.7.0 that are tagged as such. There's only about I don't know, 8 or so of them, and you can find them in the GitHub issue tracker under the 1.7.0 milestone. Time for the next couple of weeks before 1.7 comes out, to find things to fix are actually in the 1.6 milestone, the 1.6.4 milestone, basically the bugs that we think are fixable in the very near term. And by fixing them in 1.6.4, they'll also be fixed in the 1.x version. So if you're looking for something to do prior to our release, checking out the bugs, and specifically the bugs that are tagged for 1.6.4 or 1.7.0, those are the best bugs to take a look at. And of course, there's always 1.8, which will come out 4 months from now. So if you're interested in looking forward to the future, it's never too early to start thinking about the next minor version of Backdrop. That's all I've got for the Backdrop update. Jen?
Sure. So I just added a section here because last week was DrupalCon, and I know a lot of us were there. There is a fantastic blog post by Tom on our website right now if you want to give that a read, about DrupalCon in particular. And then Jeff also is recommending this post on open source and human time management. I just looked over, it looks kind of interesting, so I'll give that a read later today too. If anyone else heard of anything at DrupalCon or wants to share anything or post blog posts that think are relevant, definitely let us know. I know Wes was there, and a bunch of people had a bunch of good conversations about Backdrop on Twitter, which is pretty exciting. But I would love to hear more about the event too. Next week, I think, is CivicCon. I know Jack's going to be there. I don't know if anyone else is planning on attending. But it would be great to get a recap of that event afterwards too. So if you are planning on going and you want to let us know how it is, we'd love to get updated on that when it's over. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to add to this week's meeting related to events or the release or anything else we should talk about?
One more thing related to Civi CRM. Just the latest version of Civi CRM finally includes out-of-the-box backdrop support. How awesome is that?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so we'd had backdrop support in Civi for a while now, but it wasn't actually included as like one of the integrations. So now it's right out there just with Drupal and WordPress. So
it's a good chance for Jack. I think Jack has been working a lot on that to write an article.
Yep.
It would be. I would love to see a blog post about that with some screenshots. I don't know who. I know Jack's not going to have time to write one, but maybe if anyone else is using it, I would love to see how that's going. Anything else anyone wants to add? Okay. Well, let's get back to the issue queue and get some of those bugs fixed for 1.7.
Oh, hey, I just thought of something I was wondering. What's the current status of the our analytics being sent about backdrop sites, the statistics? Do we have the feature level reporting at all of what like modules people have enabled and things?
We only have contrib projects right now, so it's based on project, not based on module that's enabled. So we know what versions of backdrop core people are running and what version of contrib modules people are running, but we don't know what modules within those projects they're running, or what modules within core they're running either.
Okay, what about core settings and things like that?
There's an issue somewhere that outlines all the stuff that we want to add. And I think it's against project module. But yeah, it would be great to make some more progress on that and try and figure out how to include the information we need.
I just wanted to bump that because we had the ticket about whether we should remove the options for email only login, and that's one of those cases where it'd be great to see how many sites have actually have that enabled.
Yeah, I would guess probably 0, and same with username only.
Yeah, but you know, at the same time, this is like one of those things that before we remove features from core, we should probably make sure that they're not, you know, being used.
Yeah.
So like, so I would say we might want to look more into that, and even if we can't do a general, like, you know, get all the functionality we need, would it be possible to like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it'd be good to get this done and get more analytics about what settings people have enabled.
Yep.
These are long-standing issues
Totally
like on d.org as well. It has not been implemented, but even if we implement it, we will only be able to have statistics from the moment we implement it, and only when people start using the versions of core which support that. So we can't, until everybody upgrades to a version that supports sending those analytics back, we won't have enough analytics. But the sooner we implement it, the better. And as I said, I'm the one who started those issues, some of those issues on d.org, and I said, the sooner we implement such a mechanism there, the sooner we'll be able to use it to make decisions.
Yeah. Anyway, this is something that would be good for people to work on as well.
It's infrastructure issues, and usually we give priority, and rightfully we give priority to features and fixing bugs on the product itself. So these tasks, in the backdrop world, yes, they get lower priority, as you understand, but yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. I think that unless we make good product decisions, no one's gonna, like, you know, a lot of the features that we want to add, a lot of the work that needs to be done, needs to be done in a more informed way. So it's like, yeah, we could just spend all of our time, like, you know, doing feature requests and patching bugs and things like that. But unless we actually have some information on which are actually important, like, you know, how many users are encountering this because how many people have this module turned on, it seems kind of vital for us to actually do, like, to actually see what work needs to be done. So I would say this is sort of a higher priority.
Yep, I agree. It's important. I don't know what kind of changes are going to be required in order to collect the information we need. If it's additions, is there a chance we could get any of that into 1.7? Wait,
So
no.
There's a code freeze. Code freeze.
I like
it's feature freeze. It's feature freeze. It's not code freeze.
Okay, well, this is a new feature, so we should.
Is it a feature?
It's a feature.
What if it's a bug fix?
It's not a bug fix. This is a feature.
All right. So maybe. So my point was that we should tag that issue with a milestone.
Yeah.
And if we can't do it 1.7, we should tag it 1.8.
All right. And I haven't reviewed the discussions. How much discussions have there been about how we're choosing what data to track? Like, if we want to, how can we, have there been discussions about how we pull out which, like, you know, core settings that we want reported?
I think it's just been like, when we find that we need to know one, we add it to the list.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's worth tracking all of them. But if you have some better ideas about how to make that call, definitely we'd be open to that.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, but like looking at the email only login, it's like we didn't know we needed to track that. If we start tracking it now, we're only capturing people who upgrade their sites, like to this version. And so, I mean, it'd been great if, like, you know, because that's a fairly innocuous setting to have been tracking that all along. But the only problem is like, I'm not sure if there's any way that we could blanket capture a bunch of config and make sure that we should probably look through every core configuration and see which ones have sensitive information and which ones don't, and track any ones that don't, is what I'm thinking.
My thought was, because some of the settings might have sensitive or private information that should not be communicated, off of the top of my head, what I could think was that the things that we require are all the things that have a checkbox or a radio. We don't necessarily need to know what option people use as a, for example, a text box that says what's your site name or what's your email. But if there are things that have options, we need to know which checkbox is checked. So we need to go through every config when it comes to core. But then there was also an issue. It's going to be, if we're going to implement that for core, it would be very useful to also do it for contrib. So we should go through every config file and see all the settings that have values like true, false, or 0, 1, or I don't know, the options, I guess, and then report that.
I feel like.
But then we'd have a big volume of data being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like with contrib, like, probably better just to not to default to just like whether or not the module's enabled, and maybe even have some sort of configuration file within a config project that says which data that we'd like to track from that project.
I think that's a good, like, I think we should try and roll this out in phases, and saying, like, we want to track modules versus projects is good for phase 1, but trying to guess, like, what from contrib we need is going to be hard. I like your idea, Mike, of letting projects specify, but I also think that that's not necessarily crucial for the problem we're trying to solve, which is helping us make informed decisions about core. I think we can do this in a phase 2. Informed decisions about contrib is also important, but not as important as what we're working on right now.
So yeah, I don't know, but like, how would we, if we have, when we have the list of config options that we want to report on, how are we saving that list? Where is that going to be? Would it be, do we need some sort of special configuration file for this? Would it just be a big block of text?
I don't know. I would look at look at what project module can support now and see if there's like an easy win there.
Okay. Yeah. Because I don't think it does anything like this now. So I mean,
right. This has actually got I mean, we'd need to store it on the server side. You need to define it on the client side. Information across the wire. Because I mean, this is like right now we're only conveying bare minimal amount of information. It's a side effect of update modules. It's like you have to tell it what versions you're running basically in order for it to say like these are the things that you care about. It's not true, but it is more of just like a side effect rather than a functionality of like sites reporting back a bunch of information. Because if we start sending over lots of information, you know, like, I mean, it could be like a megabyte of data that we're sending over. That could have some serious impacts as well.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it would be really not beneficial to have people turn off that module because it was making their sites slow, so we wouldn't be getting the data we need anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, this is kind of a big issue, and probably it's probably a series of issues. We probably need a meta for this if it doesn't already exist.
I think it's just one issue right now with a bullet list in it, but I would encourage you to refactor however you need.
Does anyone know the issue number for the reporting and what it's called?
Yeah, I'll try to find out that and yeah.
Okay.
If you search the issue queue for metrics or statistics,
Metrics. Okay.
yeah.
I don't see it there. Oh. Add a production development toggle to core. That sounds like a useful thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't seem to find it here, so if someone wants to post
maybe
that.
the project queue, like Dan said, in the project module queue, and not in core. But I'm not sure. Let's see.
What do you mean? Wouldn't the project module is in core, isn't it? No? Any.
What I'm gonna do is we need to let's move on, and I'll find the issue and post it on Gitter.
All right.
Okay, I found it. Issue 285.
All right.
Anonymously retrieve configuration settings data so we can make better decisions, and it's a task. Filed back in 2014.
Yeah, we have not made. Okay, we're going to probably have to work on this and break it down into a series of tasks because it sounds like it's like, oh, let's just magically start doing it because it's going to require some integration and lots of figuring things out.
Yeah.
And it'll involve coordinating with the D.O site or the backdrop.o site to actually collect the data.
Is there anything else we should talk about at this meeting? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up, and we will focus on getting those last few fixes in for 1.7, and then we'll make a list of features for 1.8. We'll talk about those at next week's meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you guys later.